Alrighty boys, so welcome back to another video. So in today's video we're actually going to be covering something pretty interesting, and like I said guys, we are capturing some stuff that's going to be happening due to the aftermath of the election. So long story short guys, apparently a bunch of people are flooding NYC slash getting sent to Texas on buses to be sent back over the border, or people are specifically trying to leave. I don't know. This is just something I saw on Twitter that popped up like a video, and I thought we would go ahead and check it out, give our thoughts and stuff like that. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, don't forget to drop a like and sub. Here's a YouTube comment shout out. Let's go ahead and get into it, guys.
Sending 4,500
Okay.
migrants back to Texas, offering free
Oh, so yeah, they
bus
are.
tickets to other states. So Abbott sends migrants to New York, then New York
Wait
spends
a
all
minute.
this money, millions, to send them back to Texas. The Big Apple
That's crazy.
So Texas has sent around 30,000 people to New York on buses, and it looks like New York is now trying to send them back. In fact, asylum seekers here can not only get a free plane or bus ticket anywhere in the world, after their shelter stays expire, they're forced to reapply for housing.
Are they coming to Cali too?
These are handed out, revealing that even though New York is America's largest sanctuary city, our leaders don't want people staying here for some reason.
Interesting, and they voted blue over there. Interesting. People who wanted to keep housing the migrants specifically now want them gone, huh? Interesting.
Adams is also returning migrants to Illinois, Florida, and Colorado.
Oh boy.
Adams' office blasted Adams' move, saying, quote, hypocritical Mayor Adams said busing migrants is morally bankrupt.
I voted for Trump because of the economy.
Much like the trend nationally, many New York voters this year were driven by the economy and immigration, especially.
You know what was honestly, this just goes to show that like they took in all those people, paid all that money to house them, to take care of them, and then they were like, you know what, I think we're doing something wrong here, let's send them somewhere else and make them somebody else's problem, when they could have just not brought them in and paid them to begin with. You know why? Because all you thought that they were going to contribute to society or some shit like that, but they are still relying on you to this day. So I don't know, man. It's just crazy. Absolutely crazy.
After Texas Governor Greg Abbott started busing migrants here 2 years ago.
Throughout his campaign, President-elect Donald Trump promised sweeping changes to what he painted as an out-of-control immigration system.
Yep.
And now with his presidency secured, immigration advocates in New York City say they're bracing for what's to come.
Suddenly, it's not a sanctuary city all of a sudden, as they want to send the people back to Texas.
What they're trying to do also is they're trying to blame Trump. I do get that Trump did say he was going to do a massive deportation system, so I guess in a way they're kind of like giving them like a free way out, and spending more taxpayer money to do this, which is, I still should not, yeah, it should not be a thing. But then again, we did pay for them to be here, so I think it is kind of fair to send them on the way out, especially if they're going to be forced out. But I feel like they were already going to help them get out anyway, since they had said that they were planned on helping families and stuff like that. I don't think they would be forcing families to walk all the way to the southern border or to the northern border. I don't know. I just don't think they would. I'm pretty sure they would have like some type of transportation program or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, let's continue the video, please.
So, as New York continues to tout its sanctuary city status, it's secretly doing everything possible to help people leave. But what nobody's talking about is that this is just the latest example of how the asylum crisis has failed to bring about any meaningful improvements in the lives of asylum seekers. Because although over 200,000 have come to New York after our city offered them the American dream and a place to stay, the place to stay kicks them out after 1 or 2 months before most asylum seekers have had time to get jobs or plug into the local economy. Something we were all told wasn't going to happen here, as our leaders bragged about how our city had thousands of jobs just waiting to be filled by people getting off buses right here at the bus
But that's the
terminal.
problem, is that unemployment rates are way up. So thinking that there's going to be a ton of jobs available, like, yeah, there's maybe a lot of jobs available, but there's also a lot of competition. And not only that, but a lot of people are losing their jobs because of automation. So there's a lot less jobs out there because automation's taking over some of those jobs that, you know, provided a lot of jobs, like fast food, for example. Like, you don't need as many people and you got a bunch of machines doing a bunch of stuff. You don't need a handmade anymore, so there goes a good chunk of jobs right there. I don't know, like office jobs. I mean, you could just use an AI now. Some companies just straight up use AI to type some stuff out and put some stuff out there. So, I
But
mean,
if you
shit.
visit any of the city's 200
Slowly but surely,
asylum
people are losing
shelters, you'll
jobs.
see
New
that
jobs are
asylum
forming, and they
seekers are
just don't have
facing
the
just as much
education for those
poverty
new
and
jobs.
joblessness here in America as they were in their home countries. And honestly, it's really sad to see thousands of able-bodied people who were lied to with no way to better their lives by working and living independently. And whether or not you are for
Okay,
or
but
against
lied to or not, though, they shouldn't have expected life to be super easy coming into a different country. I mean, I wouldn't expect that going to any other country either. I know that, you know, the US is like, oh, we'll give you money and stuff like that, but also it gets to a certain point, you know? Like, you can't just automatically rely constantly 24/7 on just another country's government to take care of you. Like, that's just
the
unreasonable.
asylum crisis, it should be pretty obvious that in order to get so many people to travel to a place which has no opportunity for them, you've got to tell them something that's not true. And observers say that's what's happened in New York as thousands of people were allowed to move into our shelter system believing in a future that doesn't exist, only to be moved out of it a few months after they get here because the shelter system is full and new people who believe there's a future here for them also need to stay there for 1 or 2 months as well. Which brings us to the real reason why New York has this bus
And we need to stop
figure out this
taking
is not
people
some
in.
magical land of
Simple
opportunity. They're faced with the
explanation.
reality
Just
that
stop taking them in.
isn't gonna help them.
Simple as that.
Something our leaders have known would happen all along, yet because of New York's proud progressive values, admitting our policies just waste money while failing to help people isn't on the table. And as you're about to see, while New York is quietly helping people leave,
That's what I'm
it's also
saying, we're
doubling
wasting
down
money,
on
man.
sanctuary city policies it
Just
already
spending on
has
our actual
proved aren't
citizens,
working.
not people
As
from
a
out.
knee-jerk
Just
reaction
saying.
to President Trump's re-election, which most people here thought wasn't gonna happen.
And that's what's crazy is that I think you should always believe that one thing can happen. Like, always prepare for, even if it's your worst in your own opinion. Always prepare for the worst, I guess you would say. And that specifically for them, I mean, prepare for the worst. If you, someone who has a chance of winning that is going to deport everybody has a chance of winning, you should be prepared for that. But I don't know, man.
100 asylum seekers have gotten tickets back to Texas, some on the very buses they arrived on. And the irony here is that New York, the sanctuary city, is proving that it's not able to help people, even though that's what it claims its purpose is. But what it can do is set people up for failure while still being able to claim, hey, we're progressive, we still have a right to shelter, we're still a sanctuary city, we're still able to help you, which might help the non-asylum seekers that run this place feel good about themselves, but basically
Yeah,
makes
but
New York a
But that's the problem is that, yeah, we're progressive, but nothing in the long term is being done. Like, yeah, you guys are being progressive as in you guys are, like, you know, inviting aid, inviting people to come in to receive aid, stuff like that. But you're not giving them really any good future. Like, there is no there's no progression, I guess you could say there. Even though they're progressive. It's wild. Like, what the hell? Plane tickets? Those are expensive.
Spends all this money, millions, to send them back to Texas. The Big Apple has spent more than $6 billion.
So it's important to understand the overarching principle behind both of these bus programs. Everybody that got on
It sounds like money laundering. I don't know if that's just me, but
did so willingly, but they probably wouldn't have done so willingly had they known that things would turn out different and that they'd just be getting on another bus to go back to Texas willingly after a couple of months. And people are just trying to go to a place where they think they're going to have the best opportunity for themselves and their families. That's why they came to New York in the first place, and now that's
yeah, but if you're coming from the southern border, why are you going all the way up there, bro? There's plenty of other places, man.
We've had over 200,000 people come to New York, which had its sanctuary city doors wide open and looked like,
I mean, I guess, yeah, for the aid, since they're wide open. Still ridiculous, man.
Allowed to believe was going to happen when they got off buses and moved into our shelter system. But underneath the veneer of care that this city was putting forth was a big lie about opportunities that awaited people here, like jobs and a better future that just haven't existed.
And that's the problem, is that they got a promise and, you know, nothing really came out of it. But like I said, don't expect the country to completely take care of you, you know?
There was something good here waiting for them. As of October, there still should be 18,000 jobs out there for people who might live in shelters at the moment. But if those jobs are really out there and available to asylum seekers,
then how come they're not?
For those companies or those businesses to start hiring, because we've got people living in tents outside of the shelters they've been evicted from because they've got nowhere else to go. And
but also,
from one of the 400
I don't know,
employers
man.
identified by the local government here would really help them pay rent and get off the streets. And certainly a job that someone could work at and provide for themselves would negate the ticket program New York City has to help people get on buses and
less people out on the streets, more people making more money, the more money for the U.S. So
as rosy as people are being told it is, and these jobs either aren't available or the positions have already been filled. And if the job market were
and that's just crazy. It's not that accurate or updated or anything either.
Effects of mass unemployment at every single shelter in town.
And there's more people coming in taking more jobs, so then there's more unemployment because we're inviting more people to come and stay.
Now New York has seen that they can't handle the situation because not only just the amount of people, but also economically as well. So I can tell you for a fact,
spend too much money.
You know, we're going to continue busing.
Spent way too much money, and now they got all these people that they got to buzz back and forth.
They did welcome immigrants from day one.
So all of this opportunity that people were led to believe was here turned out to be a big lie, and this is evident in the city's own reporting. Remember, over 200,000 asylum seekers have come here. We've got tens of thousands of jobs available, but only 2,000 people, according to this article, have actually been connected with employment. And although some asylum
Yikes! Out of 200,000, that is a tiny percentage, boys. Extremely tiny.
1,000 people have been connected with jobs. That's not a system that's working out in anybody's favor. And
nope.
If someone moves into one of our asylum shelters and they can only stay for 1 or 2 months, but they're unable to get a job and unable to start providing for themselves, and then they have to move out, what other option do they have other than to
they really don't. They have to live in a tent or go back home. That's it.
To get on a bus and try to make it somewhere
like
else.
that's literally all they can do. There is no other option.
47,000 one-way tickets have been purchased in total since this.
And that's 47,000. That's a quarter of them. That's a quarter. Nearly a quarter. Ridiculous. That's crazy. They're like, yep, I'm gone.
We have to care for people in New York aren't as helpful as we may have thought.
Political strategists say, much like the trend nationally, many New York voters this year were driven by the economy and immigration, especially after Texas Governor Greg Abbott started busing migrants here 2 years ago.
If you have Democrats in charge of the state, Democrats in charge of the city, and Democrats in charge of the country, if you're not happy, you kind of go to the Republican.
Now, as you're about to see our progressive leaders,
I mean, shit. It went all red. It was a clean sweep in the election, man.
Down on them, in spite of the fact that they aren't working, and in spite of the fact that voters, in greater numbers than ever before, are voicing their opposition to them. And even though many people are starting to figure out that the asylum crisis isn't helping anybody, our leaders aren't of that mindset. Because here in New York, you've got an electorate that does not like Donald Trump. Remember, he lost his state. And what that means is the politicians that we have here, it's going to be their mandate to resist whatever his plans are for New York City and for immigration.
But we'll have to see how it goes, though.
This might not be true.
Could use some executive action. We don't know yet.
Some of which recently voted red for the first time. In New York City itself, especially places like Brooklyn that voted 80% in favor of Vice President Harris, the mandate still holds. But as you're about to see, when progressive policies aren't working, admitting that they don't work isn't part of the equation. Instead, the reason they failed is because they weren't progressive enough, or we didn't have enough of them, or we ran out of money. Which is why New York City...
Yeah, but you spent $6 billion.
But are in fact making their lives even tougher.
You spent $6 billion and still nothing has been done. Have you not gotten a sign? Like, it's okay to be wrong, bro. I think I talked about this in my last reaction video. It is okay to be wrong. Like, it's okay. Like, sometimes you mess up. Sometimes you try something that you think is really going to work. You try it for long enough, not thinking, okay, maybe over time it'll finally work. And then it doesn't work. It's okay.
Do absolutely nothing to help.
Don't just keep fucking doing the same thing over and over again.
Yet after the
Change it up a little bit.
New York City's leaders have already announced their plans to fight tooth and nail against every immigration policy President Trump tries to enact once he takes office, which means New York is going to become even more of a sanctuary city than it is right now.
President-elect Donald Trump promised sweeping changes to what he painted as an out-of-control immigration system. And now with his presidency secured,
Well, if we stop allowing people in, that'll help a lot because there won't be new people to give jobs to. We can give the people that are already here jobs, or if they can't get jobs, they don't want to contribute, then they can go back. I 100% believe in the American dream where you can move to America and figure your life out and stuff like that. But
I'm sorry, I don't want to single out
if you
this
don't want
one
to contribute to
particular
society
person,
or anything like
what
that,
is
then you
this
can go
idea?
ahead
What
on
are
back home
people
instead of relying
fighting
and taking our
against?
tax
What does New
payment.
York City think it can do to control U.S. immigration policy? If anything, the asylum crisis proves that New York has no control over federal immigration policy. Because for the last 2 years, the asylum crisis has absolutely exploded here. And it's not benefiting the lives of people who fled poverty thinking they'd come here and experience heaven on earth. That has not happened at all. But what has happened is the prolonging of poverty, the prolonging of suffering and joblessness. And this all happened before Trump was
Unemployment
even
rates
president.
are up,
It
boys.
didn't
He's
look
not
like
wrong
he had
about
a
that.
chance to ever get back in the White House. And if anything, the last 2 years have been a great opportunity for sanctuary cities in this country to prove how great they are and how much they can help people. But they haven't proved that. But they have proved they can harbor dangerous gang members and wanted fugitives from federal immigration authorities who are trying to keep people
Yikes,
safe.
and that's not a good look. You don't really do that much background checking.
On a bus like this, if there's something here that benefits them. With this crisis not directly benefiting the very people it's named after, you've got to wonder who's actually in favor of this. Obviously, it's politicians that now see themselves as the resistance to a president that hasn't even taken office yet. It benefits the bus companies who now get to make more money transporting some of the very same
because they get paid
to
bank.
Texas, where they got paid to bring them here. And sadly, it also benefits people who aren't allowed to legally reside in the country and are on some sort of federal wanted list. And those people are not the asylum seekers. Asylum seekers, they can reside anywhere in the country they want because they're here while they wait for a court date in the future. If you don't have an asylum court date, or if you have been ordered to leave the country, you've only got one choice, and that's to come to a sanctuary city. And who does that? Well, we know the gang members are doing it. They've been caught living in some of our shelters right here in New York.
And so they avoid the law, and they evade it by hiding. It's ridiculous. So stupid.
Criminal element from places that are supposed to help people.
If they're a criminal, they should be taken into jail, man.
To our city, and they're causing great harm to asylum seekers who they are here to exploit. And sanctuary city status allows these folks to hide here while living relatively normal lives compared to being fugitives in other parts of the country.
And that's fucking ridiculous.
Status doesn't matter. And the
Literally
thing
ridiculous.
about this gang is the way that they operate is through human exploitation. And how is allowing them to live in shelters where you have families and little kids who are trying to start a new life a good idea for anybody? It's not.
It's not a good idea. No, not even in the slightest. It literally is not a good idea.
Policies that ultimately only benefit criminals. Our leaders aren't creating a safe space for immigrants in any way, but they are creating a safe space for some very unsafe people.
Trump has promised mass deportations using the National Guard to round up immigrants and bringing back policies he put in place during his first term. Mayor Eric Adams has repeatedly pressed the current administration for federal assistance as the city's resources struggled to keep up with the wave of asylum seekers arriving in the city.
So this whole asylum crisis, it's a manufactured mess. And what does the city do? Well, they allow the mess to continue, and then they beg the federal government
for help,
money to solve it. Now, Mayor Adams is bound by the law. He has to carry out right to shelter, whether he likes it or not. And to do it, he's gonna need massive amounts of money. And
now he's trying to get rid of a ton of them by busting them
from the federal government, but it never did. But even though New York didn't receive the massive amounts of money needed to house the entire world, which is what's going to happen when you have sanctuary city status and a right to shelter, they still had to go through that, which did keep people, especially families with little kids, from having to live on the streets. Yes, right to shelter did accomplish that. And nobody wants to see families on the streets. But
nobody.
We're not a law and order state, and because we're a sanctuary city, having families live in a shelter system that is also populated with gang members who are trying to recruit new members and find people who they can exploit, that's not a good situation either, and that's the situation.
And they could run them straight out of these hotels, man. They could literally just cooperate with them. Run into the hotels and stuff like that. It's fucking crazy.
Is that New York City's shelters wouldn't be like this if we were not a sanctuary city. If we had a right to shelter and we still housed asylum seekers, the situation in those shelters would look very different if police were actually allowed inside, but they're not allowed in. Police can't patrol these places.
Sanctuary cities. Simple as that.
Gangs are fueled by two things.
It's perfectly fine to have asylum seekers, but get rid of the gangs, man.
Lawlessness and poverty. They've been exploiting the poor in their own countries, which is why those
and they steal.
And now those folks have to flee again.
And they steal because they know they can, and they won't get in trouble for it because they're in a sanctuary city.
Is not working yet. It's going to
Crazy.
continue in the future as a symbol of resistance.
It's just ridiculous, man.
New York City's progressive values. Is that what's going on here? Is that why this system that's not helping anybody is
They steal these and they sell these for a living.
Another reason.
Which is wild.
Do you think that this is part of the resistance against an incoming president who says he wants to make sweeping changes to U.S. immigration law? Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it.
Oh man, yeah, it's just, I mean, it's absolutely just insane. How insane that this whole situation is now that the presidency is officially locked in for Donald Trump. A lot of things are already starting to shift and change, and he's not even in office yet. So these next few months are really going to be telling of how things are going to be just to start. Obviously, it's not going to it's not going to like affect anything probably in the long run, maybe. I don't know yet. I mean, we don't know yet. We won't know until it happens. But it seems like in the short term, things are already happening really quickly. So we have a lot more to cover leading up towards that actual, when he's inducted in, or when he's brought in, or sworn in, sorry, when he's actually sworn in as the official president of the United States. But anyways, boys, like I said, we're going to be covering a lot more reactions and stuff like that coming up here pretty soon. So if you guys enjoy these reactions, let me know down below what you guys want me to cover and stuff like that. I'll cover anything, election related. I'll cover some politics, not everything. I'm not really political like that, so I try not to be. And like I said, boys, free thinking. You guys should all, give your own opinions and stuff like that. Just don't be rude. It's perfectly fine to give your own opinions. I think it's perfectly fine to be free thinking and to give out or speak your mind and stuff like that. I honestly would appreciate it if you guys did, because then it gives me a new perspective to look through when I look through your guys' eyes rather than just my own, because I could be ignorant or I just straight up don't know what is going on from somebody else's point of view, and I need to witness it from other points of view so I can get different perspectives, but long story short, boys, I will see you guys in the next video. Later, boys.